West St. Louis. This is What Retirement Means to You with financial advisor Jerry Means. He's the founder of the Means Financial Group. I'm Spike Spengel. Jerry, how you doing this week?
I'm doing fantastic, Spike, as usual. How are you doing?
I'm good. I want to jump right in. What's on your mind this week?
Well, I thought today we could talk about how to help people avoid retirement mistakes or retirement regrets.
Oh, yeah. We don't want to have financial regrets. I mean, we all want to live a life without regrets, but especially financially.
That's right.
In retirement. And especially because sometimes it's hard to undo some of your decisions that you make. There's some specific things, whether it's taking pensions, insurance, we'll get into all of that. The first one I wanted to ask you about was regretting claiming your Social Security timing. Early, late, which is worse?
Well, it's different for everyone, but there's some things that people have to be aware of. Number one, you can't claim until age 62. That's the first age that you can claim. However, if you claim at 62, you're leaving about 30% of your benefit, up to 30% of your benefit on the table. So you really want to look at what your full retirement age is. And that depends on what your birth date is. It's going to be somewhere between 66 and 67. So people that are out there have looked at their statements. They know it's maybe with their birthday is 66 and 8 months and so forth. So it's really, really important to understand what that FRA age is for them. And then to decide, okay, am I going to retire early? Because if they retire, if they're going to keep working and retire and draw Social Security at age 62, there's income limits that they're held to. And the government can claw back $1 of every $2 if you make over those limits working part-time. Often I'll have people come into the office and they'll say, Jerry, I think I'm just going to go ahead and retire, draw my Social Security because I don't think it's going to be around if I don't do that. That's a big misconception, I believe. But I'm going to continue to work. I'm going to do consulting. And I'll ask how much they're going to make consulting. And it's over that limit. And I have to let them know, well, you're kind of defeating the purpose. Not only are you leaving money on the table, but you're going to give back $1 for every $2 that you earn. And I didn't know that. So, so those income limits, are around the 25,000 mark and some change. So if you're going to work part-time, you need to make sure you stay under those limits. Also, every time that you defer, you don't have to draw it at your full retirement age. If you have other assets, you can take income off of those assets and maybe bridge a gap between your full retirement age and age 70. Because at age 70, you have the maximum benefit that you can get from your Social Security. Now, it doesn't grow past age 70. So if you don't draw it at age 70, you're really leaving money on the table because it's not going to grow anymore after that. So you might as well be banking it even if you're not going to use it. So again, there's really no one answer to say, okay, this is when you should draw. Everyone's situation is different based off of their assets, their spouse, their health. That's a big thing that comes up as well. When I sit down with someone and they're asking me about Social Security, so one of the number one questions that people ask when they sit down with me is, when should I draw my Social Security? I'm asking when they're going to retire and about their assets, of course, but I also want to know about their health and the health of their spouse. Sometimes it makes sense for the spouse that has the lower Social Security to go ahead and start drawing early, because if something happens to one of them, the healthy or the spouse that's still around gets the bigger of the two checks, and the other one goes away anyhow. So it really depends on every situation.
Jerry, I thought this answer was going to be a lot simpler. There was a lot in there. The early, the late, are you going to continue working? So you know what I want to do for our viewers right now, because Social Security is very confusing, at least as far as the perfect timing. I'd like to bring up the phone number for the show here. When you reach out to that phone number, you can set up an appointment. You can see it down here. We'll keep that up for a little while. There's no cost to come in for an appointment, because if you talk to the Social Security Administration, they don't really do the full financial planning aspect of it. They're not going to ask you about all of the other investments. You could say, well, what happens if I take it early? What happens if I take it late? There could be a 2 or 3 hour wait to be able to get into that office.
They give you the numbers. That's it. They're not going to give you advice. They're going to give you numbers. When you come into a financial advisor, especially a fiduciary advisor, they can run what's called a break-even report. We do that for our clients. So we can do a break-even analysis and say, okay, based off all the information that we've gathered, here's what it looks like if you draw it early. Here's what it looks like if you draw it late. Here's the break-even point. And a lot of times that helps us explain to the client what's probably going to be in their best interest of when to draw it. So it's not an easy answer, but it is one that we can help people with.
So I want to take the two bracket sides of it, okay? The taking it early, I want to reiterate that. If you're working at 62 or 63, I totally get it. I actually, when I was a younger person myself, I thought, well, I can just start that thing early if you continue working. Well, you can bank that money, invest that money, but you're saying there's, what is it, a tax or a penalty if you're working? Because I understand the threshold isn't very high of what you can make in income before you have to start giving $1 of it back.
That's correct. It's about a $25,000 limit and some change.
Yeah.
But you know, also the assumption that Social Security is not going to be around or that it's going to be decreased, I really don't believe that's going to happen. I think, you know, if you look at the Social Security reports that you can download from, you know, the .gov site, it'll tell you on there that the Social Security benefits will likely be reduced, you know, by 25% or something like that in the future years. I really feel like government will fix that, but they're going to wait until the 11th hour, right? They just have a tendency of waiting till it gets there, and they put it off to the last minute, and then they'll find some way to fix it. I cannot see Congress or anyone that has a voting bloc really wanting to decrease Social Security. That's something that they're going to tackle, and I believe that they'll fix. That's my personal opinion.
Yeah, because if they don't fix it, I think a lot of people will be tackling politicians, say, hey,
correct,
fix my Social Security.
Yeah. On
the flip side of the early, again, you don't have a crystal ball to know how long somebody's going to live, but if you do wait until the age of 70, it increases 8% a year from your full retirement age. So let's even say today it's somebody who's 67. You've got 3 more years of growth. That's great, but what happens if something happens to you and you pass away by 75? I mean, it's not like your family gets it as a pension plan or a lump sum or like an insurance policy. So all you got was 5 years of it. So which is it for you more when you're helping people out? Is it more of a numbers issue or kind of a health issue, like a family history issue?
It really is a combination of both. I know that's the easy answer, but it really is it is a combination. I mean, I had a client in recently that wants to work to age 70, wants to retire at age 66, but doesn't want to draw their Social Security till age 70. Looked at their assets, looked at the other income that they have coming in. The wife is going to start her Social Security. Then they're going to withdraw money from his retirement plan for the first few years until he reaches age 70. Then we're going to stop pulling money from the retirement plan, kick on the Social Security, and he'll still pull money from the retirement plan, but a much smaller dollar amount. But we were able to gap that. Now, I can't do that for everyone. They had enough assets, we were able to do that. For some people that are saying, hey, I'm retiring at 62, I'm not working anymore, and that's the only income source they have other than their assets, sometimes we have to go ahead and trigger that benefit at 62. But again, it depends on health as well. If someone in their family, no one's lived past age 70, for example. You know, I have people say that all the time, like, I'm going to draw it early, Jerry, because nobody in my family lives past 70. So I want to draw it and get some of my benefits right now. That's one thing to consider for sure. But people also are living longer, taking better care of themselves. So just because that's your family history doesn't mean that that's doomed to be your history. But it is something that we consider in the plan.
Yeah. And it's one thing, as far as a regret, it's really hard to undo your Social Security. Basically, you've got about a 12-month window when you turn it on. Yeah. And if you do want to reset it and redo it, you'd have to pay back everything you've already been given. So if you've spent it, it's really hard to redo it. So don't have a regret in mistiming your Social Security. Make sure you put it together with a complete plan. That's something you can do here right now. Call the phone number down on the bottom of the screen. We'll do your complete Means report on making sure that you can be and stay retired, and that includes your written income plan. More with Jerry Means and trying to help you with financial regrets in retirement right after this.
I was like most kids. I wanted to be, law enforcement or fireman or baseball player, of course, that sort of thing. But growing up, even at an early age, my grandfather was a big influence on me. He was kind of the monarch of the family that everyone went to, and if they had questions, they always went to my grandpa, and I was the oldest grandson. And I noticed that during the holidays, we would be at his house, and he had 2 living rooms, and one of the living rooms he always stayed in, and everyone else kind of gathered in the other room. And he was reading the Wall Street Journal and watching the stock market and taking a look at where things were and talking to me about politics. We just had a really good relationship, and I took an interest in investing. So he taught me how to read the Wall Street Journal when I was 13 years old. So if you can imagine, I went to school, I knew more about investing than most of my teachers did. I knew what bonds were, what equities were, how the market worked. I still wasn't planning on getting in that line of work. It just was interesting to me. It was kind of a bonding time with my grandfather. And then fast forward into my early 20s, I got a phone call from a financial advisor that worked worked with my grandfather, and he said, hey, we're looking to recruit, young guys that might want to get into business. And your grandfather said to give you a call. And once they showed me what they did, I thought, this seems like it would be a good fit for me. And 25 years later, we just celebrated our 25th anniversary in the business. So it was the right move for me.
Welcome back to What Retirement Means to You with financial advisor Jerry Means. Today's program, we're trying to help you not have any financial regrets in retirement. You said you definitely wanted to talk about healthcare. Why can healthcare be a possible regret in retirement?
Well, not planning properly or making the right choices when you turn Medicare age. When you turn 65 and you get Medicare A and B, assuming you don't have an outside health insurance plan, Part B doesn't cover everything. So you have to have some type of gap coverage, whether it's a Medicare supplement or a Medicare Advantage plan. My wife, Angela, actually works in the office. We're a family business. My son's an advisor in the office. So we have a very family-oriented business. But my wife does the Medicare supplements and the Medicare Advantage. And basically what she does is she has a check sheet that she gives our clients to go through and put who their doctors are, what their prescriptions are, all of those certain things. She puts that into a system. It computes all of the different networks and basically says, okay, based off what they've given her, this is the best Medicare option, Medicare supplement option. This is the best Medicare Advantage option. And then she explains the differences in the two, because one of them, you don't have a monthly premium because it comes out of your Medicare, but there's co-payments. So if you're healthy and you're going to the doctor and, you're not going to the doctor very often, the Medicare Advantage plan might be a little bit better. But the Medicare supplement, you have a monthly or an annual premium, but you don't have the co-pays. Now, the difference between when you add all that together, once you figure out which plan is best for you, you have to understand that Medicare does not cover long-term care stays or home health care. So it's got very, very limited coverage, maybe up to the 100 days, and I've really never seen it pay the full 100 days for anyone. You have to have some type of gap coverage for long-term care, because today, if you reach age 65, you and your spouse, the statistics are that one of you has about a 74% chance that one of you will need some type of long-term care assistance. So not preparing for that could be a huge regret.
Yeah, those are numbers that you can look at your own independent reports out there. Couples together, 74% chance if you reach the age of 65 together that one of you will need long-term care assistance of some kind. And that could be a nurse coming to the home, that could be going into a facility. Jerry, have you seen the costs of long-term care facilities come down around St. Louis?
No, they're going up. One of the highest inflation rates that you'll see. I mean, when I started in the business 27 years ago, it was like $40,000, $50,000 a year to stay in a full long-term care facility. Today, I'm seeing people paying $70,000, $80,000. So I've seen it more than double, and it's increasing pretty much every year.
All right. So before everybody out there on their couch and their chair start feeling really badly, are there things that we can do to protect our nest egg, or are there instruments that you like? What can we do to kind of protect for healthcare costs in retirement years?
Well, number one, there's traditional long-term care insurance where you pay an annual or a monthly premium, and it's going to cover a stay for a certain amount of years. So the longer the stay or the longer the coverage you want, the more expensive that it gets. The problem with those types of plans that I have seen is they also have really high rate increases over time. I've seen people start out paying $3,000 a year. Now they're paying $9,000 a year, and the costs are continuing to go up. So I'm not a big fan of the traditional long-term care anymore. But if you are going to apply for any type of long-term care plan, the earlier that you can do that, the better, because the younger that you are, the better the rates are. Also, your health may be better, because with long-term care, whatever type of plan that you get, the money doesn't pay for the money pays for the plan, but it doesn't buy the plan. Your health buys the plan because you have to qualify. I've leaned more towards alternative methods. There's things like life insurance that has accelerated death benefit. So let's say, for example, you have a $400,000 death benefit and a guaranteed universal life policy. If you meet certain criteria and you need long-term care help, they will let you accelerate that death benefit and use it early for care. So you can pull maybe $300,000 of that money out and pay for it for your care as you need it. There's other things like annuities that have income riders that pay a guaranteed lifetime income. So it can be kind of a double-edged sword because it can give you lifetime income protection, But if you qualify and you can't do 2 of 6 activities of daily living, they will double that income. Now, that doesn't always pay for the stay, but it definitely can help with things like home health care, handicapping the house, things like that. So there are these other strategies that people can put money into. And some of them, like the annuities, there's no health questions. There's actually one, are you currently in a nursing home? But other than that, there's no other health questions to qualify.
Right. And well, I think we want to be clear on this, that Medicare doesn't cover these long-term care costs.
No.
It's, I think, one of the biggest confusions out there. And I know a lot of states, of course, neighboring Illinois, to be able to go into any sort of state-run facility, you have to completely deplete your assets. So I think you want to be able to have choice. But the bigger picture is that almost 3/4 of people, if you reach the age of 65 together as a couple, you're going to need some sort of long-term care assistance. It's a subject that needs to be.
Yeah, it's not a fun topic to talk about. No one wants to come in and talk about. They're saying, well, it's like I'm planning for the worst. Well, it actually can be very liberating. It's not really that you're planning for the worst. It can be liberating knowing that you have a plan and that if something does happen, you and your spouse are going to be okay.
Yeah. Would the regret here be not having the conversation about long-term care and the need for it?
No, definitely should have the conversation. And that's what we're offering today to the listeners. If you give us a call, 844-878-1293, there's a no cost, no obligation, and no pressure to come in and sit down with myself or a member of my team. We can talk about your long-term care plan, what your options are. We also can look at your income plan. We can look and see if there's anything that we can do to help you to avoid paying extra taxes, excessive fees. And we want to measure and see how much risk you have in your portfolio. And is that aligned with your goals and with your comfort zone? So give us a call. Again, there's no cost, no obligation to come in, sit down with us, and just have a talk and have a visit. Give us a call. The number is 844-878-1293.
Couldn't have said it any better myself. It's not just about the income planning or the investments. It's taxes, estate planning, healthcare selections, timing of Social Security. Call right now. You can get started on your own on-track retirement review. And when you leave the office, you'll leave with your on-track retirement report, how you're doing and action steps for how you can make your retirement even better. Call 844-878-1293 right now. No cost, no obligation. And don't go anywhere. More with Jerry Means, financial advisor, right after this.
You wouldn't stick with a mortgage if you could get a better deal. So why should your retirement plan be any different? With today's higher interest rates compared to recent years, fixed and guaranteed financial products have improved dramatically. That means you may be able to reposition assets for greater security and higher returns. The problem? Many advisors aren't talking about this. At Means Financial Group, we make sure that you don't miss out on opportunities that could strengthen your financial future. Call today for a complimentary review and see if refinancing your retirement makes sense to you.
Welcome back to What Retirement Means to You with Jerry Means. He's the president and founder of the Means Financial Group right here in the greater St. Louis area. Essentially, if you're seeing us on this television program right now, you can reach out to the phone number when it comes up. You can get your own on-track retirement review and ask any of your retirement questions. Today, we're trying to make sure that you don't have financial regrets out there. What about your estate plan and putting that together? This, again, is one of those conversations that isn't always fun to have, but would you regret having the state decide where your stuff goes as opposed to you being able to decide?
I would think so. You know, I know that, one, if you don't have a will or durable documents, it can cause a lot of headache and heartache with family. Number one, a will, often referred to as a pour-over will, is your beneficiaries on your account supersede your will. So you can put in your will, I'm leaving everything to Bobby and Joanne, but if your beneficiaries on your 401k statements, your bank statements are different than what your will says, they supersede the will. So the will often is like a backup plan, you know, and you can do things with the will, like you can leave things that you can't beneficiary with a form. You can leave, like my dad, for example. I have 3 brothers, and we all like to hunt. And my dad has lots of guns that are sentimental to us, right? Mm-hmm. And my dad, you know, will say, "Hey, I'm going to give this gun to Billy, and this gun to Danny, and this gun to David." And I'm like, "Dad, put that in writing, and let's have it notarized and attach it to your will. That way, there's no dispute when you're gone, right? Because you don't think you're going to fight with family, but funny things can happen, so little things like that you can do with your will. Now, a will is public information, so and it doesn't guarantee that it'll avoid probate, because a lot of people say, well, I'm not worried about probate, I have a will. A will is actually what a probate judge uses to help determine where those things go, but you start having other costs like the attorney fees and court fees and things like that. So it is important to have a will, but you definitely want to have properly structured beneficiaries on all of your accounts. You want to look at durable power of attorney for finance. So if you're incapacitated, you want to be able to have your spouse or one of your children to be able to pay your bills and get into your bank account and help you out if you're incapacitated. And often we've talked about this on other shows, just because you're married doesn't mean you have access to your spouse's 401k or their IRAs. If you don't have that power of attorney, you can't access those funds, even though you're using it to maybe pay hospital bills. But if you have that durable power of finance, you can use that along with the doctor's instructions saying that it does need to be implemented, and then you can go ahead and help do that. Another thing is a healthcare directive. A healthcare directive is basically saying what your wishes are if you are incapacitated and you're in a hospital and you can't make health decisions on your own, and you need someone to be appointed to do that. A lot of times people do that when they're in the hospital, but it's very important, I think, to do that and have some thought put into it and do that before. I've actually seen in real life myself where that document was in place and where it wasn't in place, and seeing how it affected families on those decisions that they had to make. So I really preach that to all of my clients. Make sure you have the healthcare directive, because it's really, really important. It can save a lot of heartache.
Talking about not wanting to have regrets in retirement, we've talked about everything from Social Security and healthcare and now documents and estate planning. This is a lot more than just investments. I thought you were going to tell me about how much risk we have to take or not take, or saving enough for your retirement. Of course, that can be a regret, but there's a lot of tools and a lot of different pieces of putting together an actual retirement plan. And I don't know, is the internet a good place to get your advice on this stuff? Or, well, you can download certain estate planning documents and so forth. Are those just as strong as speaking with an actual attorney and getting it guided by an advisor? Yeah,
I don't feel that it is, but I'm kind of partial to that answer. The show is called What Retirement Means to You. And the reason that we named it that is because retirement really is different to everyone. What they want it to look like is really different. So the reason I talk about these things is because when I sit down with people in my office, I'm asking them about their family, and I try to ask questions that maybe other advisors hadn't asked them. When I'm going through my fact finder questionnaire and I'm asking questions about their family, first of all, people want to hand me all their documents and say, hey, this is what we have. And I'm like, that's great, we're going to get to that. But let's talk and have a conversation. When do you want to retire? What do you do for a living? How do you feel about your job? How many kids do you have? How long have you guys been married? Do you have kids from separate marriages? Are any of your kids disabled and you're helping take care of them? I've asked that to a lot of clients that have said, you know what, no one's ever asked us that before. But a matter of fact, we do. We have a son that we take care of, and it has to be part of our financial plan. So getting to know people and then helping them understand what documents they need to have in place. We didn't even talk about trust. Not everyone needs a trust.
Okay, yeah, let's get to that.
I'm not an attorney. I tell people that all the time, but as a fiduciary advisor, it's important for us to talk about these documents, and then we can help send them to the right person to set that up. But without a financial plan, there's no need for an estate plan, right? But you do need some of those documents.
I like that. Without a financial plan, there probably isn't going to be much to have to leave over for estate planning.
Right.
Is there, again, well, I guess the regret is if you pass away and you don't have a trust, you're not going to really know how much trouble the family is going through. But is there a financial number where you like a threshold for a trust? Is it about how much you have saved? Is it about assets? Is it about if you own a business or if you have kids? When do you start determining if somebody needs a trust?
Well, all of those things can come into play. It's not really the dollar amount. A lot of people think trusts are just for the ultra wealthy. But like I said, if you have a disabled child that you're taking care of and you want to leave money behind for someone else to be able to take care of them, that's something that you're going to want to use a trust to do. If you're in a second marriage or third marriage and you have kids, from the previous marriage, you want to make sure they don't get disinherited. Sometimes both spouses have their own trusts. There's estate planning as far as, now that comes into numbers, but there's estate planning tools that you can use to minimize estate taxes down the road. Now, right now, the estate tax limits are so high, not very many people are going to have a problem with that. But but there are a few out there that will. So there's strategies that you can put into place. So again, it just depends on the dynamic of what's going on in their life. It could be, Johnny's a spendthrift and you don't want him to blow all of the money in the first year. So maybe you structure it where he gets a payment every year for 10 years. Maybe he does blow the first 3 payments, but gets his act together down the road and still have some of that legacy left behind. So to a lot of people, legacy is really important.
Yeah. And some financial regrets that folks have are when you think that you're actually helping out your family, but not realizing the legal mess that you could be creating. For instance, as you get older, if you know that let's say you have one child and you're going to pass the house on to them, titling kids onto your home or titling kids onto your accounts so they can help you with payments as you get older, that can be a little bit risky, can't it?
It can be. It can open up for lawsuits and things like that. If you put your son or daughter on your bank account, on your house, and they get into a car accident and there's more damages than what their insurance cover and they come after that person, that's not just your asset, that's their asset as well because you've had their name on there. So there's things like that they have to be careful about. So you can avoid a lot of that using a trust and beneficiary deeds and things like that. And the other thing that I wanted to say is equal isn't always fair. A lot of people help out kids help one kid more than others, but they have 50% beneficiaries on there. So maybe one's really successful, one not as much, and you've always had to help them out. But you're kind of disinheriting a little bit of the legacy for this one
because
just because
they've
they were
already
doing
had
well.
a lot of financial.
So those are all things to have a conversation about.
Right. And one more financial regret is maybe thinking that putting together a financial plan is very expensive. Jerry, what is the cost for your financial plan?
Well, if you give us a call at 844-878-1293, what we're offering is a no cost, no obligation, no pressure consultation to come in and sit down with myself or a member of my team. We're going to look at what is your estate plan? What kind of changes do you need to make, if any? Has it been updated? We're going to look at the investments that you have. Are you taking too much risk? We're going to do all of this for you at no cost, no obligation, no pressure. Just give us a call, 844-878-1293.
Your on-track retirement review, your meeting will include you getting your on-track retirement report. How on track are you to be and stay retired and live the lifestyle you've maybe never even dreamed of yet in retirement? Call that phone number right now, 844-878-1293. Thank you for watching. We'll be back next time.